It's the 18th of August. Quiet Saturday down at the Yippee House. And, once again, we're contemplating the question of global warming and what to do about some of the big changes that are coming. Some of the other people here are doing a global meltdown survival clinic. Our approach is a little bit more political. We're taking sides. We're against the people who are actively causing the problem. And we've been talking to a lot of people about the fact that this is going to have to be treated like a national emergency. If this was a war, we'd have a draft. If we're going to have an environmental catastrophe, we need an environmental draft to deal with the problem. And the thing about a draft is the draft board controls who gets, called up, and let's give local draft boards a say, which would be good. And it will be focused on people who are doing the most damage. I'm going to take these people from a situation where they're doing the most damage, like cutting down the rainforest or running a major polluting corporation, or doing illegal landfills, or being running a campaign to stop environmental hemp is obviously one of the things that can't be having, because we need to replace trees with hemp. So the trees can grow. We need more trees. But more trees, are not the only thing, as the Chinese are finding in the extreme western part of China. They plant the trees, but the sand comes and blows in sand dunes and covers the trees. And so the real basic problem in those parts of the world is they're parched. And we're going to have situations where a lot of different semi-arid areas are running out of drinking water. We have some ideas about sequestering water that would otherwise flow into the ocean, right? And creating a situation where a lot of places where there is precipitation, water gets kind of sent backwards into the Caspian Basin, for instance, which is a really, if you examine all the features of the world, kind of unique in being, the Caspian is actually under sea level. And there is a series of river basins, waters concentrated by tributaries into one river that flows out north of there, which could be, in fact, the mayor of Moscow is otherwise a very reactionary man, has pointed out that they could solve the desiccation of the Aral, major environmental disaster caused by the diversion of water to begin with to grow cotton. And the Uzbeks are not going to give the water back. But the Russians could take the water from Siberia and send it south. And they've been talking about doing this in a way that wouldn't involve the creation of any really large inland bodies of water, whereas we're looking at not using power, but just using gravity. So what you do is you take the ridge line. We could remove fill from the canyon that leads north from the Aral to the Ob river basin, and put it in place of the ridge line that once existed, many billions of years ago, when the entire area was a big lake before the ridge line was completely eroded away, so that today it's a big marsh. We're talking about something like a Canadian marsh. You can think of Canada, think of someplace, north of Winnipeg, probably, in terms of, what the weather's like. And it's a big cold marsh, which could be a big shallow lake. And the water would then be diverted south, where it would fill up an area, and it would begin to evaporate. And as it evaporated, they would rain in China, and it would snow in Tibet, and it would rain in Afghanistan, and all these places that aren't really getting enough in the way of rainfall, because the lake that used to be there after the glaciers is all dried up. That's like the Caspian, which is actually a big lake. They call it a sea because it doesn't go out, it isn't drained out to the ocean. And to do that, you probably have to raise the level of the Caspian about 300 feet. You could drain it out, but that's another question. Do they want to do that? Caspian has, of course, great sturgeon, potential for caviar. Come back if we do this. I think we thought we could like enlist, the very, very wealthy women, Paris Hilton, John Kerry's wife, right? Teresa Heinz Kerry, to save the caviar.
That's an environmental movement that many wealthy people could get behind.
To save the caviar. So, we have a little plan here that could work, and it could work for a lot of different people. It could work for people in China and these other places who get the rainfall. It would work in the intermediate area where we would be able to grow millions of acres of hemp and fix carbon through, growing hemp is just one of the fastest growing ways to fix carbon. And of course, you can make all kinds of products from that. And there'd be productive farmland that could absorb some of the refugees from the lower lying areas. But unless we do something now, nothing will ever happen. So that's why we have to get behind the environmental draft for Republicans. The environmental draft for Republicans.
Well, it could be sold in a more profitable way, and they might get more interested.
Well, I don't know. I think the best thing to do is kind of like that virtual march that Leonardo DiCaprio has for the environment. We could have a virtual thing where people can each buy 1 square inch of lake bottom. Actually, marsh. It's marsh today, but buy a square inch of Siberian marsh for the environment. When we own it all, we can do whatever we want with it because it's ours.
Well, I was thinking this summer that it would be probably nice if we could fill up the Dead Sea again.
The Dead Sea is we're working with activists in the marijuana activists in Israel, and that they support water reclamation in a big way. They already have a plan to reinflate the Dead Sea.
I would think that you could probably, if you built pipes from the ocean to the Dead Sea.
No, they don't want to do that. They actually talked about bringing it in through the Wadi to the south from Eilat. But then you'd have the problem of gypsum. Something about the stuff in the Dead Sea, they're only supposed to put like fresh water in it, or you put seawater in, you get like strange gypsum all over the surface. So it won't work. And of course, you'll have to go north. Turkey has a couple of rivers they want to sell them. Not the Tigris Euphrates, but these other rivers that go into the Mediterranean. And they have a plan to divert the water. They have a way they can like suck the water up if it comes down.
Yes, siphoning. If the pipe at the delivery point is lower than the pipe at the intake point, you have a system that'll just keep on flowing.
Yeah, well, that's basically what we're talking about.
Okay.
In fact, they think it would generate energy because it would be a net downflow of water in these turbines and stuff.
That would probably be the sale point, because if you let the corporations know they can make money.
Well, I think the people who are really going to make money on this deal is the Russians, because when the oil runs out, they'll be able to sell that water. And if you pump enough fresh water in the Caspian Sea, it loses its brackish quality. If you do create an outlet for it into the Black Sea, then you can a lot of fresh water, which the people in Iran are really going to need. Just don't have enough water in that whole part of the world. And there's alternative parts of the plan where we could create water for Lake Balkash, which is further east.
That's in the Soviet Union?
Well, it was in Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan.
Yeah. The former Soviet Union.
Have there been any thoughts about Death Valley or the Salt Lake City? We have
Well,
lots of dry
yeah,
lake
of course,
beds.
there was a plan back in the day to flood the Salt Lake, the Great Salt Flats, supposed to create weather, create lake effect, and to take advantage of this area where we could impound water, because water. The thing is, water runs down, right? Every time you take some water out of the ocean, you put it in a salt flat, or you put it in Lake Chad, or you put it in like the Caspian Sea, that affects the height of the ocean. Water is going to run into the ocean anyway from Greenland and Antarctica. So if we can stop some other water from running in. Another idea was to excavate, dredge the delta of Colorado. Because you could dredge far enough north, you could affect rainfall in Phoenix, for instance. The Gulf of California creates a surprising amount of weather when it gets hot enough.
Right.
You get these monsoons, just like India. In the southwest part of this country, most people don't realize that. And then there's the Salton Sea. That could be very easily just let the ocean in.
Right now, that would be
a
an
little tough on
improvement.
the agriculture there. But agriculture can move around.
And the evaporation would produce rain, so that the agriculture would benefit anyway.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Death Valley is a ways away from anything. So I don't know how the hell you can get the ocean in Death Valley. It would take a good piece of ocean. There aren't that many. I would say this: there aren't that many low-tech, kind of easy-to-do things that are, in our little palette of colors here. We only have so many things we can do. Some people want to bring back nuclear energy in a big way. The kind of thing I'm talking about could be done with trains and cranes and guys shoveling dirt. I mean, what I'm saying? It's all. If you go out across this country, you'll see many places where they have berms.
Yeah, the
holding a
WPA.
huge artificial lake there.
Right.
So we're just talking. Yeah, we're talking about. Who else is talking about this? This is Dennis Kucinich is talking about Green Works program, right?
Yes. Well, Hoover Dam.
The problem is, he wants to give it to inner city kids.
One of the big problems would be that most of the carbon problems that we have are not from people so much as corporations, that you can't
you
draft
get the
them.
top CIOs and draft them. Then the corporation kind of sputters to a stop, doesn't it?
Yes, but we have to. How do you get a law that will actually do that? Because it seems like the government doesn't
people
want
have to be motivated by environmental catastrophe.
Okay.
And say, enough, we want to change. I mean, in this country, in 1932, they elected FDR. And yeah, they tried to stop him, but, he pretty much changed everything.
Right.
People they really wanted a complete change in the country. They were tired of the way things are going. And I think that, this is going to come maybe soon, maybe sooner. It depends on how, soon all the ice, in Antarctica and Greenland, falls into the ocean. Well, I'm told it's happening really fast, 3 times faster than they expected. So, this kind of stuff, it's like the proverbial, hitting the wall. That's what I'm
Yes.
saying, you know, hitting the fan.
Once you don't have a place to live and you can't count on water, you have to make some tough choices to correct.
Probably have to move.